what happened at Gaza, which is utter slaughter and destruction.
Yeah.
So,
But they had a right to defend themselves,
of course,
to retaliate. Do you think that when Hamas did what they did on October 7th, that they could predict what was going to happen?
So I can't read the minds of Hamas, and I'm opposed to Hamas.
I know you are.
Yeah, and I think
And
that
I don't want to characterize you as in any way endorsing what Hamas did on October 7th.
Yeah.
In today's video, Cenk Uygur absolutely destroys Dr. Phil in a heated debate about the Israel-Hamas war on the Dr. Phil podcast. While Dr. Phil leans into a more traditional pro-Israel stance, Cenk Uygur holds the line with facts, context, and moral clarity. Cenk Uygur doesn't just debate, Cenk Uygur exposes the double standards, challenges the dehumanization of Palestinians, and pushes for a path forward rooted in justice and equality for everyone. So let's dive in and watch how Cenk Uygur shuts down Dr. Phil on the Dr. Phil podcast.
Because I know you don't.
Yeah. So look, nobody ever talks about the whole context of the situation. So the reality is that 5.5 million Palestinians have been occupied by Israel for 57 long years. And so no one would tolerate being occupied at all, let alone for 57 years. And the analogy I often use is Texas. So if somebody came and occupied Texas, do you think Texas might fight back? Do you think the citizens might fight back? And especially if you took away any opportunity to do it in a legitimate way, do you think maybe an insurgency would rise that others would call terrorism, right? So now that doesn't justify the terrorism, but it just explains to you how we got here. So 57 years, so then Hamas does something terrible in return, okay? And then Israel goes, oh, you want to see terrible? We'll show you terrible, and levels the whole place. So, but what Israel doesn't understand is that they are Goliath. For all of Jewish history, they have been David, and they have been abused, and they have been traumatized, and I don't know people that have suffered more, right? But they're misunderstanding the current situation. They're no longer David. They're Goliath, plus they've got even bigger Goliath behind them. And they're beating up on these folks when they got to let them go.
Okay, but you just said a really important word. You just said but.
Mm-hmm.
You just said for all of this time, they have been David. But that means forget everything I just said. I'm going to now tell you what I really mean.
No, it doesn't.
Now they're Goliath.
No, it just means the situation has changed.
It has changed. I'm saying you can't forget all of that time. And I don't want to get into a but. The situation is complex, and the Palestinians have been offered peace accords and all different kinds of opportunities to change this occupation circumstance time and time and time again. We can go back and forth about that. My point is that there is no moral equivalent to what happened on October 7th.
I actually totally disagree. I think what Israel has done since is far, far worse, and it's empirical. So they've killed 62,000 now. Hamas killed 1,200. My heart breaks for that 1,200. There was kids in there. There was terrible things that were done in there. Now Israel has done every one of those things, but times 60. So don't tell me that Israel is more moral. I would argue they are more immoral. And especially when you're Goliath, you have a responsibility to tread a little bit more carefully. And Israel has done the exact opposite. And remember, they're the ones who started it by occupying them in the first place. There's not a single Texan that would ever tolerate what Israel has done to the Palestinians.
Well,
now, Dr. Phil framed everything around Israel's right to defend itself after the horrific October 7th Hamas attack, which, to be clear, no one is excusing. But what Cenk brilliantly pointed out is that this entire situation didn't start in 2023. It didn't even start in 2007. It goes back over 5 decades of occupation, blockade, and a humanitarian crisis that's left millions of Palestinians stateless and powerless. Cenk flipped the script with a sharp analogy. Imagine if Texas was occupied for 57 years. Would we really expect Texans to just sit quietly generation after generation? And while Hamas atrocities were indefensible, Israel's response, according to multiple independent sources like the UN and Amnesty International, has led to tens of thousands of civilian deaths, widespread infrastructure collapse, and accusations of collective punishment. And here's the kicker. When Cenk Uygur said Israel is no longer David but Goliath, he hit on the core truth too many overlook. Yes, Jews have suffered immensely throughout history, but in this conflict, with the world's most advanced military and unwavering US backing, Israel is the dominant power, and with power comes responsibility. Telling Palestinians to accept endless occupation and then blaming them for resistance is not a path to peace, it's a cycle of trauma.
We could go over the number of times that Israel has been attacked, and when you say that they have done the same or worse, I don't know of an aggressor that has gone to the lengths that Israel has gone to, dropping leaflets, warning people, get out of this area, get out of this area, get out of this area, because we're coming after the aggressors. To me, they have gone to extreme lengths to try and protect civilian life. But if you have people that come across and assassinate women, children, and infants in their cribs, and then run back and hide in populous areas, schools, hospitals, and tunnels, and say, well, I'm now in a neighborhood, so you can't come after me, that's violating the rules of war. That's violating every possible measure of warfare that you can possibly do. You can't do that and expect, okay, so I get away with it. That's not going to happen.
Okay, so you're turning me back into the warrior, Cenk. Okay, but let me try to handle it a different way. Can I get you to see it from the other perspective? Okay, so I hear what you're saying about the Israeli perspective. Well, these guys hit me. What do you want me to do? And I have a literal answer to that. I was asked, on October 8th or whenever I went on the first show afterwards, I said, yeah, you should use special forces like we did to get bin Laden. Is it riskier? Of course it is. But as Goliath, you have a responsibility, but you're still going after them. So there are real ways you could do military, you could do economic, you could do diplomatic. Israel has infinite power over the Palestinians. They control their lives completely and utterly. They could kill them at any moment, and they do. And the things that you described, they don't do that anymore at all. They're using an AI program called Where's Daddy? They have no idea if it's the right guy, but they wait till he gets home so that they kill his family with him. It's disgusting and deeply immoral. I think they're a terrorist state, and I think they do terrorism far worse than anything I've seen from the Palestinians.
Dr. Phil did what many defenders of Israel's military campaign do. Point to things like leaflets being dropped before bombing and claim Israel is going above and beyond to avoid civilian casualties. But Cenk wasn't having it, and let's be honest, neither should we. Because dropping a leaflet before bombing a residential block doesn't absolve anyone of responsibility, especially when you consider the power imbalance. Gaza is one of the most densely populated places on Earth. Where are civilians supposed to go? Warnings don't mean much when there are no safe zones, no running water, and no exits. Human Rights Watch and Amnesty have both said that simply warning people doesn't make an unlawful strike lawful. And then Cenk Uygur dropped the bombshell about Israel's use of an AI program called Where's Daddy, which according to multiple investigative reports is used to track suspects and intentionally time airstrikes to hit when the target is at home with their family. That's not collateral damage, that's deliberately weaponizing civilian presence. If any other government did this, we'd call it what it is, state terrorism.
Now, having said all that, okay, so I'm a bad guy. If you're from Israel's perspective, you go, I don't like that. He's saying mean things about us, and we got every right to occupy these people and keep them as our slaves for 57 long, brutal years, and I'll do it for 500 more years because I'm superior to them. That's how I view Israel. And so I'm not a friend. I'm not like in the sense of what they're doing today. My God, they do a peace deal. I love Israel. Let's go together. And I want it to be beautiful, safe haven for Jews. They deserve it, etc. But can I get you to see the Palestinian perspective? How long do you want me to be occupied? How long do you want me to live under the thumb of a different people? How long would you accept that? What would you do that was different? And they've tried everything. They've gone to the UN, just like Israel did, rebuffed. They've tried diplomacy, rebuffed. They try everything, rebuffed, because Israel has infinite power because it controls America.
I can look at it from Palestinians' point of view, And I hate the loss of life in Palestine. I absolutely hate the loss of life in Palestine. I think when Hamas made the attack they did on October 7th, they put a sequence of events into play that they knew was going to happen. They don't value life, they value death. And I think they put all of those people in harm's way. They knew what they were doing when they did it. They're responsible for what's happening in Gaza Strip when they did what they did. They knew what was going to happen when they did it. So it's happening. And now this peace accord, will it hold? Netanyahu is, I suppose, skeptical of it when you're dealing with people in power whose prime directive is you be dead. It's hard to negotiate with people who are oriented to wipe you off the face of the earth. From the river to the sea, you can spin that any way you want, but that is what it is.
It's so hard not to get frustrated. I'm trying to make peace here, but Dr. Phil, look, last things on this. Number one, Netanyahu has said from the river to the sea. So don't tell me that you don't like from the river to the sea when your prime minister says it. Number two, he's actually doing river to the sea, and they're going to take Gaza, and they're going to try to take the West Bank. Number three, they've now killed 60 times the number of civilians. So how could killing 60 times the number of civilians be more morally correct than killing one time? It just doesn't make any sense. But America's only looking at it from the Israeli perspective. Oh my God, what would you do if you were attacked? Okay, but I'm asking you, what would you do if another race, country, religion, government was oppressing you for 57 years? They have to go to checkpoints. They get humiliated at every checkpoint. They have no rights at all. The settlers have killed 1,000 people in the West Bank. Nothing to do with the Gaza Strip, nothing to do with Hamas. Hamas is not in charge of the West Bank. They kill, oppress, humiliate, and then they go, I can't believe you're mad about it. Oh my God, I can't give you freedom because you don't like Israel. How were they supposed to like Israel? At what point would they have liked Israel?
Let's be real. What made Cenk's side of the debate powerful wasn't just the passion, it was the facts and perspective so often missing from mainstream coverage. While Dr. Phil leaned on the familiar pro-Israel talking points about Hamas using civilians as human shields and the need for retaliation, Cenk Uygur pressed a deeper issue. Occupation, 57 years of it to be exact, that's not just a skirmish. That's generational subjugation. Cenk Uygur's frustration boiled over when Dr. Phil framed Hamas's attack as a trigger that justified everything that followed. But here's the truth. Collective punishment is a war crime, no matter who you are. Over 37,000 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza as of mid-2024, the majority of them civilians, many of them children and women. And that's after the warnings. After the leaflets, you can't bomb neighborhoods with AI-guided systems like Where's Daddy, which Amnesty International and 972 magazines have exposed, and claim you're the moral one. And Cenk Uygur is right to call out the double standards. When Israeli settlers kill Palestinians in the West Bank, where Hamas isn't even in charge, there's silence. When Netanyahu echoes the exact same river to the sea sentiment he criticizes, it's called security. That's not just hypocrisy, it's a refusal to see the humanity on the other side. There's no justifying October 7, but that doesn't excuse the flattening of Gaza or the apathy toward Palestinian suffering. Pause. Are you getting tired of getting half the story from biased news sources? One outlet says one thing and another says the complete opposite. How are you supposed to know what's actually true? That's where ground news comes in. It lets you compare how different media outlets, left, right, and center are covering the same story. So you can see the full picture instead of just the echo chamber. And here's the best part. Click the link in the description and get 40% off the Vantage tier, which gives you even deeper insights into media bias and political trends. Stay informed, think for yourself, and check out Ground News in the description down below.